Hello world, welcome back. Another project. We're going to be doing freeCodeCamp.com, show the local weather app. We're going to be using CodePen.io. We're going to be using Bootstrap, CSS, HTML, jQuery, and having all kinds of interactive buttons. One really. And then we're going to be using two different APIs. So we're going to go over all that. I'm just going to start off with basics. So I'm just going to give us our HTML and CSS background, and I might put some placeholders in there for this video, and then we're going to come back and start explaining the API in our next session. So let's share the screen here, and I'll open up CodePen.io. JavaScript, I'm going to leave that blank for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get us started on what we need. So this is a pretty simple project here, where we're really only focused in on having one section to populate our weather. So let's see. Overall, what we really want is something that has an icon with the weather in degrees, whether it's Fahrenheit or Celsius, some description of the weather. I'll put the country name, the city name, longitude, latitude, that kind of stuff. And all it's going to do is sit in one little div. So it's pretty simple. So as usual, I'm going to start with the body tag. Everything goes inside the body. So slash body. So it's going to be pretty simple. And again, if you're working in a text editor, this is going to be a little bit quicker for you. But that's okay. It's going to work directly in CodePen. Next thing that I need is I'm going to need a nav. All right, so I'm going to build my Navbar, and it's the same Navbar I've used in my previous projects because I just found it works, and I don't like to waste a whole lot of time coming up with something new, especially for these projects. I want to focus in on the new skills that we're actually building on in this particular project, which is actually working with various APIs. So this is really the second API project. The first one that we worked with was for the quotes. And so hopefully you've done that one already, so you kind of have an idea of how the APIs work. This one, again, is something simple and similar to that. So I'm going to have a navbar. If you remember, this navbar is going to need a class, and it's going to be a Bootstrap class, right? So we're going to go over here to our settings, and we're going to enable our, scroll down, quick add Bootstrap, but that's not all. Right now, if you see, I have this 4.0 alpha 0.6 whatever. Well, the last working version of Bootstrap before they went into this alpha here is 3.3.7, so 3.3.7. So make sure when you add Bootstrap, you have this in here, 3.3.7. All right. And while we're in here making changes, let's go over to the behavior just to make our lives easier. Keep autosave on, and you're gonna auto update preview. You're gonna unclick that now. It's just easier because when we start doing the JavaScript, it's annoying. So let's go in here to JavaScript, and while we're here changing stuff, let's go in here and enable jQuery. And again, jQuery just lets us type in basically shorthand for vanilla JavaScript. Essentially, we can use the jQuery object and use keywords to that to access chunks of code, and just makes our life a whole lot easier. So let's use that. All right, so now that we have Bootstrap enabled, all right, and it's one that actually works, we're going to give ourselves a nav. All right, a nav bar. So here we go. And I'm going to show you something else in a minute, but let's just start with this nav bar. So nav bar, all right, tells us that we have a nav bar. And I just kind of like this kind of black gray look, so I don't have to worry about colors. So nav bar inverse, and I want it fixed to the top. So nav bar fixed top. I'll show you what this looks like, and then slash nav. And now we have a nav bar to put in there. Now there's something else that we don't have in here. So I'm going to save, and I'll run this. And there's our nav bar that goes all the way across. Right now we have a nav bar. It's all we have is a blank nav bar. It's going across. What we don't have is we don't have any sort of really responsive design here. So it means as we change our sizes. So remember that right inside the body, it's a good idea, especially if we're using Bootstrap already, to just stick everything, all right? Not just inside the body, but also in a fluid container. Well, that's not true. It could just be a normal container, and which is a Bootstrap class. So if you want to go check out the documentation, there's a difference. One just changes on stop points based on the size of the screen, and one just changes dynamically with screen size. I like one that changes dynamically with screen size, so no matter what it is, it adjusts to that. So that just is a class called container fluid. Okay, so that just I'm going to wrap everything in a fluid container here. So slash div. Okay. And so now we have a nav bar, and then our content's going to actually go in between our nav bar and this div here, and all of our navigation is going to go here. Okay, so what do we want to say in this nav bar? Well, I want some sort of header, all right? And so the class is nav bar brand, all right? I want it to say something. Um, so let's add in a div here. Div for s equals nav bar nav bar. Make sure I got this right here. Nav bar header. And now I could actually make this an anchor tag so we can click on it and it does something. Um, or I can just type in something else. But I'll make it just in case. I should definitely remember to close my divs. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So right now, if I type in parent local weather, I run this. All right, can you see what this looks like up here? It just is there, right? So it puts it at the top of this as like a header, right? But that's not exactly what I want. What I want to do is I'm going to wrap this anchor tag, all right, with a class equals navbar brand. Navbar brand. All right, and what that's going to do, so the navbar brand, all right, I mean, it's an anchor tag, so it's a button. It's going to have an href, so that's where it goes. Now, if I want, I can add this to go to like the top of the page or something like we've done previously. But since it's just a single like little div we have, I'm just going to leave that blank. All right. Okay. And now when I have current local weather and I close my anchor tag, so I have an anchor tag that essentially does nothing. Oh, look, see now it's actually like a navbar brand. It looks like a button. And we could always change this and add an anchor tag somewhere else, like the top or something. We could say if we really wanted to do something. But now it just looks like a button. It just looks a little nicer that way. And I don't have to worry about styling it either. That's really that's really the goal, is just so I don't have to style it. So that's why I'm doing that. All right, so there is my navbar header div. All right, so remember this div is just for that navbar header. All right, and now I just need an unordered list. So my unordered list that I have, I just want two little buttons on this side. One of those buttons is going to be a link to my pens, and another one, I just want it to be a button for Celsius and Fahrenheit. And there is a glyphicon for that, or a glyph icon. I don't really know how you say that, but they're just Bootstrap buttons. All right, and remember I showed you the Bootstrap buttons, or you can go and install Font Awesome if you want, or activate that library, and you can use Font Awesome icons if you want. But I actually found some glyphicons that work perfectly right in Bootstrap, so we're just going to use those. And in order to use those, I need an unordered list. So I'm just going to give myself an unordered list. Okay, and that unordered list is going to have some Bootstrap classes. And the Bootstrap classes I need, tell it that it's a nav, all right, for navigation, all right, and then it's a nav, so it's in the nav bar. All right, and I want it to go on the right side of the screen, so nav bar right. That's what that's going to do. So there's the beginning of my unordered list, and remember to end your unordered list. /ul. Unless you're in a text editor, then it does it for you. It's always nice. So inside my unordered list, I can use list items. So I need a list item in my unordered list. Big surprise, right? So there's my list. All right, and there's my /i. Okay, and I'm going to have two icons, and so you can either write the same thing, and you'll see. If you're working in CodePen, sometimes I cheat and copy and paste. All right, so either way works. But actually, what I'm going to do is instead of copying it now, I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to write out the code once, copy and paste it, and change what I want to. Makes it easier for me. All right, so what I need inside of here is I'm going to make an anchor tag. It's going to be a button. All right, it's going to be a dynamic button that I'm going to use. And it's just so an anchor tag, again, is going to be your A for your anchor tag. That anchor tag itself is just going to have href equal to nothing, because it doesn't really do anything. It's a placeholder. We're going to use it to toggle something. All right. And I'm actually going to give it, because I want it to toggle, I'm going to give it an ID. Now, what an ID can do is I can target that ID with jQuery. And when you target an ID with jQuery, you can overwrite the HTML of whatever's in there. So whatever's in this this little like ID here, you can actually use that toggle to either overwrite something. All right. So I'm going to show you how to overwrite it a little bit later on, or you just use it as a simple button to toggle through. And this one, I don't want to overwrite it. I actually just want to use it as a toggle. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean by toggle. And the toggle that I'm going to be using is toggling between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Okay, so it's just going to be a button that's going to change HTML somewhere else. I could also use it to change the HTML right here in this ID, but I'm going to actually use this toggle to target the HTML down here somewhere and change that. Okay, so there's my toggle. All right, there we go. So it's going to be a toggle. And the glyphicons, they really like to be in a, supposedly they like to be in a span. So span just means an inline element. Span, a class, all right, equal to a GLYP. I always have to look at this when I'm writing because I always mess up glyph icon and GLYPH icon. Jeez. Of cloud is the one that I picked. All right, so it's a little cloud. All right, so that's my span. Close my span. You're going to see why I just want to copy and paste it, save, run. And there's my little cloud over there, okay? And now after this span, what I want to do is I actually want this to change from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So I'm actually just going to write Celsius, right? Celsius, is that Celsius? I think so. /FAHR. Man, I really should learn how to spell Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit. Is that right? If I misspell it, I'm sorry. I'm not a really a good speller here. I think that's Celsius and Fahrenheit. Google that, somebody, before I mess that up. You see how that's kind of touching? I really don't want that touching, so I'm actually going to give myself a space. Rerun that. There you go. Look at that. And then you can click on that to switch from Celsius to Fahrenheit. There's also something else you can do if you don't want to type it out. You can use the degree symbol, so degrees F and degrees C. And I'm going to show you actually how to do that when we do the JavaScript. And then you can come back and overwrite this if you just want this to say like degrees C and degrees F. But since we're not doing that right now, that's why I'm having trouble spelling. That's what I did on my original one, actually. So, I'm, Google that and see how wrong I am on my spelling. But I'm going to overwrite it later with degrees C, degrees F. Sorry. Anyway. Okay, that's it for my list item. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste this. All right, so basically that's all you really need. But I like to put something else on here. And here, I don't have an ID because I'm not going to target this with jQuery. And what I want to do, I'm going to copy this link address to just me and my CodePens. And I'm just going to, there we go. And I'm going to change this from cloud to user because that looks pretty good. And it says user Celsius Fahrenheit. It doesn't need to be Celsius Fahrenheit here. We can just write Mr. Snow's pens. There we go. Okay. Wristband, and we're good to go. All right. Now, you can kind of see how I'm kind of running out of room. So ideally, since this whole thing is in a container fluid, if I do this, what's going on is my screen resolution is a little bit small, so it's dropping this down inside here. So let's see if I bring this down a little bit. No. All right. Because of my screen resolution, I think that's what's going on. So my unordered list, it should be because the nav bars usually go side by side. All right. So navbar, nav, right. My unordered list, unordered list. And again, these are just some things you check. It says it's in the same span. Span. All right. Good enough. But again, this is optional anyway. So you can always add more in there. Let's see. That's my navbar header. Unordered list. I wonder if I let's see. All right. Anyway, I'll stop wasting your time. Basically, if you have a larger screen than mine, I'm doing a tiny screen. This should actually fit in there. I'm gonna come back to that a little bit later on and see if I can't switch that up because I think that looks like crap. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go like this, and I'm just gonna Control Shift / that out for right now, right? Because that's optional. There we go, Celsius Fahrenheit. And then I'll come up and I'll clean that up in between videos and see how I can make that fit a little better. Anyway, so that's pretty much our nav bar. And what else do I normally do? Well, usually I just put another div in here. Div with a class. And this is a custom class that I set. It makes my life easier. Spacer, just to kind of get the spacing even on everything. I don't know. / div. Right, and that's just a basic spacer. And then all I want is another block here. So div and block again is going to be some custom CSS, and you're going to see what this looks like. And so / div, and again, I'm going to use CSS for this. All right, so all I really want is I just want some H1 tags, and that's going to be it, and maybe some P tags in there. And you're going to see what this is going to look like. So I have a spacer, I have a block. Both of these divs mean nothing because there's no CSS because I gave it classes that don't exist. And so I'm just going to keep typing out this, and then we're going to change it with the CSS. You're going to see how smart I look later. All right, so anyway, I'm going to give myself an H1. And now here, I'm going to give it a class equals text center. Now, I can just target all of my H1 and P tags and just make that text center in my CSS if I want as well. So you don't have to put this right here. You can actually use this a little later on. H1. Now here, I do need a span though. So I need something to overwrite with jQuery. I'm going to overwrite some of the stuff with jQuery, okay? So I'm going to put all of this stuff in a span. So the span's going to get overwritten. And so since I want to overwrite this span, what I want to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to give it an ID equals, call this current temp, okay, because that's going to be the current temperature that I get. And sometimes when you make an API call, it takes a few seconds. So I'm just going to put dot, dot, dot. So when it loads, you're just going to see that dot, dot, dot. So it's going to look like it's loading. Okay. Not spam, spam. And, right. And that's going to be into that, which one? So that's going to be that one element, your temp. And then I'm going to have another one element with a class equal to text center again. Again, just using my text center, right? And I'm going to do the same thing here with the span, except this ID is going to be different. So this ID, what I want here is I want the current weather, or the description of the current weather. And again, this is information like sunny, cloudy, snowing, right? So on and so forth. So current weather. Again, this is just going to be 3 dots and that inline or span element I want. All right. And let's see. So there's span, and then I end H1. Good. And I want a line break here. So these are going to be on different lines. I want to make sure I break this break. Okay. And then I'm going to want to put in a words that are just going to kind of hang out there. So then I'm going to have something that's going to say country name, a space, and then an area to overwrite. Okay. So span ID again. You can probably guess what this ID is going to be. Something as simple as country. And these I looked up ahead of time to match what my API is going to say. I'm going to get to that in a later video. Okay, and inside this span, if you want, you can put 3 dots there. All right, but you really don't need that. You'll just populate later. And let's see. And then I want a break, another line break. And then I want this to say city, colon space. Okay. And then I want another inline element after that. A span with an ID of a city. ID equals city. And again, I'm going to overwrite that city later on. So my ID is going to equal city. Span. And then I'm going to have you can kind of see how I'm just going to type this out. Another break. Carriage return. I'm going to have, did I have a space in it? I did. So I'll say attitude. Okay. Colon. Oops, not slash colon. Colon. Space. And I'm going to have a span here with an ID of, probably guessed it, latitude. Oh man, it's kind of tedious, huh? Span. Again, all these spans, everywhere you see this span with an ID, it's going to get overwritten with jQuery later. And this jQuery that we're going to be overwriting it with, break, and then you can kind of guess it's going to say longitude. And jQuery we're going to write has to do directly with the information I'm going to get from this API. And I'm just going to overwrite these spans. I'm going to have a span. Lastly, with an ID equal to longitude. tutor, longitude, and then I can end that span. I'll add in another. You can always maybe add in 2 breaks. Doesn't really matter, depending on how much space you want, or you can just do it with padding with CSS. All right. Span. Good. And that should be it. I think that's our CSS. Save, run. See what we get. All right, we have these dots here. We have this unordered list, and this looks ugly. But basically, you have dots, country name, city, longitude, latitude, all this stuff that we're going to populate. Good to go. Our floating nav bar is up over this, and all this stuff's in an anchor tag. So let's see if I forgot to close an anchor tag somewhere. Where is the... Fahrenheit. There it is. There was my mistake from earlier. I didn't close my anchor tag. There it is, guys. See, it's always silly mistakes. So I wonder now, is this going to look better? There we go. That's what I did wrong. I didn't close anchor tags. And so I have to remember to close my anchor tags. See, everybody makes mistakes. I was wondering, every time something funny happens, you know you messed up somewhere. So I can run. There we go. That's what I expected to see. All right. If you get something you don't expect to see, yours should look like this. If it doesn't look like that, you forgot to close a tag somewhere, especially if you're used to working in a text editor or you've been moved on to something else, like if you used the Cloud9 IDE or Atom or something. You know, it's going to drive you nuts. All right, so the only thing I need to do is I need to identify what my block is. I need to identify my spacer, and I need to give myself the little trick to make sure that everything that I can see my entire background image. All right, which is that little cheat that I found on Stack Overflow a while ago that I just keep using over and over again. And the block, so dot block, this is a custom class, so I got to use that dot in there. And I'm just going to make this background color of black. I want an opacity of 0.75. And again, these are all values I played with in previous projects. Color being the text color, I want white. It just kind of matches this inverse nav bar here in terms of colors. All right, so if you can see how that looks, you know what I mean? It almost kind of matches that. I could make that color gray, but when you hover over it, it's white. So it's kind of up to you whether, you know, what you want there for those. You can make it gray. I mean, if you want to see what gray looks like, you can just change it. Either one of those will match really nicely. I want a padding around there. Not a padding, but a padding. And these are all little typos that'll screw you up if you're not paying attention. If you're making a video while you're typing this stuff out, it'll kind of mess you up. The width of that, I only really want that to be 50%. And we can run this as I go along, and you can kind of see what we're doing. So I gave it padding of 50 pixels all the way around. I made it only 50%. All right. If you want to turn it on so you can see this dynamic behavior, you can actually let it auto update for now if that floats your boat, just so you can see it changing. But remember, as soon as you start, the JavaScript is going to be really annoying, so you want to make sure you turn that off. You're going to want a margin right, auto. You want a margin left, auto. You see how that just jumps to the center? Oops. semicolon. Ooh, look at that. It's looking fancy. I want a border radius on here. Radius. Right, makes it looks nice. I'll go with 15 pixels. Again, you can change all these values to however you like. These are just some starting values for you to play with. I'm going to up my font size by 1.5 times, or EM. All right, see how the font size is just got bigger? All right, so up my font size by 1.5 EM, and I'm going to add padding to the bottom of, I don't know, somewhere between 2 to 5%. So I'll go 2% now. Oops. Now you can make it a little bit more if you want more space on the bottom. You save, it'll update, and now look, I have room under here, underneath that as well. I mean, you can make it more. I mean, you can make it like 5%, and you should be able to get more, more padding underneath. Padding underneath there is what I'm talking about. Because the header has room, so I'm just trying to match what that looks like. Yeah, I just want to get that even from the top to the bottom. You can kind of mess with that and see what padding looks good on yours. The next thing you want to do is add in that spacer, and you're going to see how quickly this works. And the spacer, only thing you have to do is padding and 5%. Like this little trick, because look, whoop, now you have padding there, right? And you can kind of see as this populates, as your screen gets taller, you're going to get more and more space at the bottom of this div here. If you wanted to, you could add another spacer at the bottom. So if you wanted to make sure that no matter how big your screen was, you had more of an image down there, you can copy that spacer and make sure that it's, so this div here is underneath this block. So you want to go here, Control V, and add another spacer there. And then you can always tidy your HTML. And there you go. And what that's going to do, you can see, so no matter how big your screen is, you get those same chunks of space. You can see background image there, regardless of the size of your screen. All right. Pretty nice. And the last thing we have to do is make sure that whatever image that we put here, which we're going to use jQuery for, just like we did in the previous, just like we did in some of our previous videos, we have to make sure that it covers the entire body, okay, which is the tag that's covering everything. And so we have to actually make sure that we do this body, all right, to the background, the no repeat, not row repeat, row, like Scooby-Doo over here. No repeat, center, and fixed. And again, these values, you can go in and look up these values and see exactly what they do just by Googling CSS, the background. All right. And these are just some fixes for different browsers. WebKit dash background size and cover dash Zilla background dash. And this just makes it sure no matter what browser it's in, it covers everything. And I think that's actually Opera for those of you still using that. Does anybody even use that anymore? I don't even know if anybody uses that. I used that on like my old DS Lite that had the Opera browser for it. That was about a background size. All right. What are we doing? Background size. Cover. And finally, background size. And That should work for the other browsers. Okay, and save it. And that just fixes your background. Now, you can put a URL in here, a background URL, and then see that pre-populate, but I'm not going to do that right now, all right? All we have to know is that I have this, which will go somewhere. This will take you right to this, right in the same window. You can set this button as a target blank, all right, target underscore blank. And what that'll do is it'll open up in a new window too if you want to do that. And I've done that in previous videos, so you can just look up how to do that. It's no big deal. All right, there we go. There's our template. We have all the IDs, everything that we want to overwrite, rewrite. I have all the country names. I'm going to add in the temperature. Then I'm going to pre-pend the icon into this section here, as opposed to append it there. Or I'm not sure if the append would drop down here or over there. I think it'll go in right after, actually. But I'm going to pre-pend it with the icon from the API. I'm going to drop in the temperature, and I'm going to drop in the description right here. So when the page first loads, it'll look like this. And then as we make the API call or the AJAX call to the API, all this stuff will populate. And then if I click Fahrenheit and Celsius, what it's going to do is it's just going to change it. And then there actually is a fix that you can do if you don't want the page to actually jump. There's something else you can do as well. All right. So there we go. There's the basis. It looks like we have a framework to work from. And so in the next video, we're going to go ahead and start with overview of the API and get started on the jQuery. Alrighty, so again, hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see you all next time.